Hello everyone and welcome back to the Quiz Talk Football Podcast. This is episode number 20 of this show, and I want to say first of all, you guys, if you have been here since the beginning of the series when the show obviously started, then I just want to say thank you for making to episode number 20. You guys have stuck with me by the way through, and I just want to show my appreciation. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say really just before we get started. But in this week, obviously, we'll be talking about the Premier League, as it was match day number 22 in the Premier League season. So we're into now the start of the second half of the season, of course, as we approach mid-January and now the early February. But the main important thing, of course, we'll talk about the title race, we'll talk about the league table, we'll also talk about the transfer rumours, of course, because it is January. Throughout the entire of my January videos, I will be making a little bit of statements to do with the transfers. We'll obviously look into the EFL, the Championship, League 1 and League 2, of course, is back after the FA Cup. And we'll also be looking into some key games that have gone on in Europe as well, because there's some very tasty ties so far in Europe. So hopefully that will be good as well. So then, in match day number 22 of the Premier League, really, well, I was going to say the top story, but, you could say that not the top story, rather, but the top story, well, I'm going to say top story. The top story is that Sergio Aguero has now become has got the most goals for a foreign player outside England, and that is because he netted a hat-trick in a 6-1 demolition of Aston Villa, and the result, of course, leaves Manchester City still some way behind Liverpool, of course, in the table. And that is, of course, because of the fact that Liverpool did win their game, which we're going to touch on. But, of course, Manchester City, absolutely ruthless, in my opinion. They've done absolutely everything right. Even though their title challenge is pretty much gone, they've bounced back from that defeat to Wolves to three wins in a row now for Manchester City, and that now leaves them second in the table. They've overtaken Leicester for the first time in quite a while, and they're second in the table. Leicester dropped down to third. We'll obviously touch on them, but the gap is still 14 points, and it is, of course, probably there's not going to be a title race. But yeah, the way that they dispatched Aston Villa, it was absolutely ruthless. They now have the best attack by far of the Premier League. In fact, they're 12 goals ahead of Liverpool. They've scored 12 more goals than Liverpool this season. And it's just incredible, really. Aguero, I believe, is into double figures now for this season. I'm not too sure how many he has this season, but yeah, absolutely incredible what Aguero has done for that side. Of course, hat-trick today. And yeah, the best overseas player with the most goals. My opinion on that, I mean, he's a legend. He's been at Manchester City for pretty much the decade that's just gone by. I mean, when did he arrive? I think it was 2011 in which he arrived from Atletico Madrid, and he was scoring goals ever since. I mean, he scored twice on his debut against Swansea, so there was already signs that this guy was going to be a really great player, and he is. He was brilliant last season, brilliant last calendar year. I think he was rated by The Guardian in the top 15 footballers of 2019. So he's had a good 2019, and this is a great start to his 2020. So yeah, fair play. And of course, Sergio Aguero, you rarely see him injured. I mean, sometimes he does get injuries, but you rarely see him injured. He's always ever present, and that's a testament to his fitness. He's done really well, Aguero, and yeah, very happy that he's, of course, the highest amount of goals from an overseas player. For Aston Villa, they drop into the bottom three, and 6-1 at home. I mean, this does remind me a lot of the 14-15 season, the 14-15-16 season rather, where I believe they finished bottom of the league under Remy Gard. It was the absolute shambles that season, with I think it was 17 points they only took that season, and they've got more points this season, but that's what that performance reminded me of. There was no stability in defence. Tyrone Mings being out injured was a real blow, of course. They didn't really get Jack Grealish into the game, but that really just, I mean, can you really call that a performance? I mean, 6-1. That is embarrassing for Aston Villa. And remember, this is the same Aston Villa team that held the Manchester City's rivals United to a 2-2 draw. So yeah, that's that's not what you want to see. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Aston Villa, man. I mean, Dean Smith is a good manager, and yeah, I really want him to have a little bit of a chance to stay up with Villa, because I do believe that Villa could take the fight down to the final day. But yeah, it's so far I don't think it's going to happen, to be fair. But yeah, as I said, fair play to Manchester City. They did absolute bits, and yeah, now after that defeat to Wolves, there's 3 wins in a row, and I don't think there's even though many people have said they're out of it, I think that with 14 points left and 16 games to go, I mean, they could hope for Liverpool slipping up, because of course the Champions League is returning in a month. But the way Liverpool are playing at the moment is just incredible, because they beat Tottenham away from home 1-0. Roberto Firmino scoring once again this season. I believe he is into double figures for the season in all competitions. I'm not too sure about that one, but Liverpool did, in the end, probably deserve to win the game. It was a little bit of a scrappy goal. But yeah, Tottenham did have their chances. I think they had a glorious chance with Heung-min Son and with Giovanni Lo Celso, the man on loan from Real Betis, who I really hope Tottenham can bring in on a permanent transfer, because he could be, really good going forward for Spurs. But yeah, they had some really good chances to win the game. Son had a really, really good opportunity to level it up, and then of course it's Lo Celso from a brilliant ball in from Serge Aurier. He couldn't turn it home. But yeah, Liverpool really are head and shoulders above the rest of the league. They're on 20 victories, which is incredible. I mean, 20 victories in 21. They've unbeaten now in 38 Premier League games, which is pretty much the whole season. One whole season of Premier League football is 38 games, which is it's absolute madness how the transformation has begun with Jurgen Klopp, and it all really started to happen with the summer of spending and what he did a couple of years ago in, I think, 2016. So yeah, fair play. He's done really well. But for Spurs, that is now only 1 win in their past 5 games. They were held by Middlesbrough in the Cup. The replay will be shown, I believe, on BBC. I'm not too sure about that one. But yeah, Spurs 1 win in 5. They've lost their last 3. They've lost 2 of their last 3 Premier League games, and at home now they're starting to struggle a little bit. Remember, they lost to Newcastle at home at the very start of the season in the same circumstances in which they lost to Liverpool yesterday. And that's because of their inability to take chances. And yeah, I really do think now Tottenham really should be a little bit concerned. Obviously, it is still early days. I mean, Jose still hasn't had time to sort out, who's playing where and what's going on. But, Tottenham do have the Champions League next month. I think it'll be a decent distraction, I think, with RB Leipzig. Of course, they have a brilliant attack. But, yeah, Liverpool just too ruthless in this league. They're absolutely ripping it apart. And yeah, I do believe that whatever happens, it will be for the best. Whoever wins the league will be for the best. And right now, it is looking like Tottenham. But it is what it is. So then, but we don't know. But the big news, I think, in terms of transfers for Tottenham is Gedson Fernandes, the Benfica 21-year-old prospect, who looked to be on the verge of signing a loan deal at West Ham, has now decided to move to another London club, Tottenham. They are set to beat West Ham to the signing of Gedson Fernandes. And I think midfield is the place where they are stacked. But there is a reason why a reason why they would sign Gedson Fernandes, and that's of course the rumours with Eriksen and Lo Celso, maybe even go back to Betis. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that maybe it's going to be a good signing for Tottenham, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. I think that they need to try and keep Lo Celso in the team, because he is a decent player. He's featured a couple of times for the club. But I think that Gedson Fernandes could be a decent player. I think he could be a key player. I think if he moves to West Ham more than Tottenham, I think at Tottenham, because of the stacked midfield, it could affect him a little bit. Whereas with West Ham, people sort of really trying to see what he can do. And it's a perfect scenario. He can come in at West Ham and help them up the league, because they should be finishing inside the top 10. I predicted them to finish 9th this season. And they're not. They are only just above the relegation zone. We'll talk about their game in a bit. But, yeah, Liverpool are actually interested in signing Barcelona winger Ousmane Dembele, who is still 22. I'm not too sure it will happen. I don't think so. I think that now they've got Minamino, of course, who had his debut in the Cup. I don't know if he featured in the game against Spurs. I'm not too sure about that one. But, I mean, it's just another winger, isn't it? And they've got well enough wingers that can play Liverpool. So I don't think that one will be happening anytime soon. But speaking of West Ham, they controversially lost 1-0 to Sheffield United. And the big news for West Ham, there were two pieces of big news for West Ham. One good news, well, not good news, both of them are bad news. The first piece of bad news is that West Ham will have to wait to see whether Fabianski's injury is a long-term one, because he was substituted for David Martin in the Sheffield United game. And they're looking to bring in Darren Randolph, who of course used to play for West Ham, I believe a season or two seasons ago. I'm not too sure about that one, 2 or 3 seasons ago. But the real talking point for West Ham is Robert Snodgrass was denied an equaliser through VAR, and that's because I think Declan Rice tried to control the ball. It came off a Sheffield United defender, and then it came back onto his arm, and then he controlled it and played the through ball for Snodgrass. Now, I have seen the incident, of course I have, and it's a hard one, because if you think, I mean, obviously it does come off the Sheffield United defender. I think it was Jack O'Connell, I'm not too sure. It does come off the defender onto the arm, so you could say it's ball to hand. But on the other hand, there might be some people who say, but maybe he should have at least, taken his arm out of the way a bit more, been a bit more thoughtful about how the situation was going to go, weigh it up, see where the ball was going to deflect, because obviously he didn't know where the ball was going to bounce around. But, there are arguments that could suggest that they were right to chalk off the goal. In my opinion, I think that they weren't right. I think that what I've just said about the ball to hand stuff, it's not a clear and obvious mistake like VAR should be pointing out. It is a little margin, and that's cost West Ham. That could be quite costly come the end of the season. I mean, with West Ham, the form they're in, of course, which is why Pellegrini got sacked. Of course, they're trying to revive themselves under David Moyes. They didn't really play well, of course. The goal that they conceded to Sheffield United, David Martin playing out from the back. We're going to talk a bit more about playing out from the back in a bit, but yeah, it's really not going well for David Moyes so far. I think the VAR decision will affect them. God knows how long, though. I really do think that VAR is going backwards now. Declan Rice has said himself, no Premier League players would want VAR. I would like to believe that, I really would, but at the same time, it does help the game from time to time, and I think that's what's happening. And if West Ham do lose out to Gedson Fernandes, it'll be a big blow, because they really do need, first of all, maybe a supporting striker for Haller, and of course a midfielder, and they're just not getting that. But for Sheffield United, they are doing absolute bits right now. Sheffield United, they, I believe, are actually in the top half of the table. That is very, very good. They're in sixth place, not fifth. They're in sixth place, Sheffield United, and they've bounced back, of course, from two defeats in a row. Yes, and Sheffield United have got 32 points, so they're 2 points in front of Spurs, who, of course, lost to Liverpool, but they are going to be very lucky, Sheffield United, that they got the win against West Ham. Two sides that are looking to get into that top half of the table, Crystal Palace and Arsenal. They played out a 1-1 draw, but the real talking point was the fact that Aubameyang, who scored their goal for them, got sent off for a challenge on Max Meyer that has left him, I believe, injured. But for how long, I don't know. But for Arsenal, again, Mikel Arteta, I don't know, I think the fact that this is his first job, it might start to get to him a little bit. Of course, he lost to Chelsea. They barely got past Leeds in the FA Cup third round on Monday. And, of course, they've just salvaged the point against Crystal Palace. Jordan Ayew scoring the equaliser, his fifth goal of the season, despite it taking a bit of a deflection off a defender. But, yeah, I mean, the red card does mean that Aubameyang, I believe, will get suspended for either 1 to 3 games, or I'm not too sure about that one. But, yeah, he's the only real leader in that squad, Aubameyang, because, of course, the amount of goals he scored. He's been one of the top 10 goal scorers of the decade, if you remember. But, yeah, it is what it is. Arsenal, of course, have only won 1 of their last 5 league games. Crystal Palace, though, they're on their best record. Despite their last 3 games being draws, they are unbeaten in their last 4, and they're in the top half of the table. So it's really going well for Crystal Palace. The transfer news, of course, since last episode is that they've decided to sign Cenk Tosun on loan from Everton. Now, my opinions on that is he's been an absolute flop for Everton. He has. Obviously, arriving in 2017, Besiktas striker. Obviously, I heard of him before he came to Everton, and some big clubs were actually wanting to sign this guy. Some big clubs in Europe wanted to sign this guy. I think there was teams like Ajax and teams like Sevilla and Valencia that wanted to sign Cenk Tosun after his 20-goal season for Besiktas, but no, he's signed for Everton, and I don't even believe he scored double figures for the club. But yeah, Crystal Palace, of course, do have the problem of strikers. Only one striker for them has scored in the entirety of the season, and that is Jordan Ayew. So, of course, Tosun will be competition, but, you know, the likes of Jordan Ayew, Christian Benteke, Connor Wickham, who's only just come back from injury. Connor Wickham, I have not seen play for a long, long time. So, yeah, it's obviously more bad luck for strikers at Selhurst Park. But for Arsenal, I mean, would it really be a transfer window if they weren't linked with anyone? So, of course, they're going to be linked with a few people, Arsenal. And, of course, they are looking to finally sign Thomas Lemar. But, of course, we've been here before. They've been looking to sign Thomas Lemar for about a year and a half now, and it has not happened. Will they do it again? I don't really know. Of course, they are looking to, once again, try and sign Hakim Ziyech from Arsenal. Will that happen? I'm not too sure about that one. I don't think it will. But yeah, that's really it. Jerome Boateng, it does look like Jerome Boateng won't be signing for Arsenal because, of course, the not the contract negotiations, but the transfer talks have broken down. He's suddenly finding himself not linked to Arsenal as such now. So maybe Arsenal have ended their pursuit. But yeah, for Crystal Palace, it's actually believed that Connor Wickham is set to join Sheffield Wednesday on loan after the arrival of Cenk Tosun. But, you know, it is what it is, to be fair. Manchester United dispatching Norwich City by 4-0 pretty convincingly. But this is like a father beating his 12-year-old son at chess, really, because Norwich do look dead and buried. They are, 8 points from safety. They haven't won in a long, long time. Manchester United, though, up into 5th place, still 5 points behind Chelsea, but they do have a worse record than the Blues. They've lost 1 more game out of the past 5 than Chelsea. So, of course, it is a good way for Manchester United to bounce back after their defeat last time out to Arsenal, which was pretty painful, but good way to bounce back. Of course, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford scoring a brace on his 200th appearance. And it only seems like a couple of days ago since he made his debut, but there it is. That's football for you. The amount of games, he's got 200 games in 4 years, pretty much. That's absolute madness. Norwich, I mean, they look dead and buried, don't they? I mean, the fact that they haven't sacked Daniel Farke is a testament to their persistence with the manager, of course. They're pretty much going to go down the Championship. In essence, they need around about 9 victories in their last 18 games last 9 victories in their last 18 games to survive. And that's not going to happen. In fact, I don't even think they're going to win half of that, 4. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be all over for Norwich. It's just a matter of when. But for Manchester United, of course, they are looking to try and close the gap up to Chelsea in the race for the top 4. Of course, Manchester United are always linked with transfers, and they are willing to offer 2 players, Marcos Rojo, and I believe, I'm not too sure who the other one is, in a swap deal for Bruno Fernandes. And again, like Arsenal with Thomas Lemar, Manchester United have said time and time again, we're going to sign Bruno Fernandes, and it's not happened. It has not happened. But I mean, one of their transfer targets, Donny van der Beek, the Ajax midfielder. Remember, he's only 22 years old, Donny van der Beek. Brilliant player. I've seen him play in the Champions League a few times. He is set to join Real Madrid, who we're going to talk about in a bit. He's set to join Real Madrid, and that would really be a really complete medicine to be there. But I think that's a decent signing for Real Madrid. Also, their midfielder Nemanja Matic is in contract negotiations with MLS side Chicago Fire about a potential move. I mean, Matic is getting a little bit old now. I think he's 31 years of age. So, I think it's only right that maybe Manchester United could maybe look for Fernandes as a potential replacement for someone like Jesse Lingard or Matic, who could be leaving the club. Chelsea beat Burnley by 3-0. Chelsea, of course, looking to solidify themselves as a top 4 challenger. Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's still yet to turn 20 this season, he scored his very first Premier League goal of the season. That was very good. Burnley had a goal correctly ruled out for offside. Burnley still are looking to try and ensure their survival. They're 3 points ahead, but 4 straight defeats, Burnley. So they have not started the new year well. So, what will happen for Burnley? Will the pressure start to mount on Sean Dyche? Also, Eddie Howe, the pressure is starting to get to him, He hasn't won, I think it's 4 out of their last 5 games they've lost. That's a really terrible run for Bournemouth, and it's left them 2 points from safety of their opponents today, which were Watford. And Watford are now the joint second most informed team in the Premier League with Southampton, who we're going to talk about in a bit as well. Watford under Nigel Pearson have been absolute brilliant. Wonderful. I actually watched a lot of this game, and Watford were really looking well, and their 3 goal scorers are potentially their best players. Deulofeu, Doucouré, Deeney, Pereira. They are their 3 best players. I mean, we saw this last season and the season before with Gracia, and they were their key players, Watford. But Deeney, of course, he scored once again under Nigel Pearson. He's been an absolute revelation, as has been Ismail Assar, who has scored and assisted, I believe, 3 or 4 goals in just 5 games. That is madness, absolute madness. And I wrote him off at Christmas before Pearson was appointed. I thought it was going to be one of the worst signings of the season, and under Nigel Pearson he has been transformed. I have no idea what's going on. But 3 straight wins in a row to take them out of safety. I remember they were not even 9 points. I have no idea. They were 8. They had 8 points 5 games ago. They had 8 points. But now they've got 13 out of a possible 15. And they've got 22 points. It is absolutely staggering what Nigel Pearson has done. And I've said it time and time again. He knows how to keep Premier League teams up. He's done it with Leicester, with a quality squad. He has a quality squad in this Watford side, with the likes of Doucouré, with the likes of Janmaat, Deeney, Sarr, Pereira, Kabasele, Ben Foster, who could be retiring in a couple of years because he's getting on a little bit as well. Ben Foster, absolutely class. And Watford I mean, they're only 3 points away from 14th position in the league, and they have spent all of the season but this point in the relegation zone. That blows my mind. That is just unreal. It's really hard to understate the impact that Nigel Pearson has had at Watford, because he's taken them from 8 points in 16, 17 games to 22 points in 22 games. Incredible what he's done, and I really do hope it continues. But I really hope the owners of the Watford Football Club do not sack, Pearson whenever he has a cold, because he has done absolutely bits. And if he keeps Watford up, if he gets Watford into mid-table, which is a formality, they're only 7 points behind Crystal Palace in 9th. If he can get Watford up into mid-table, that will be the turnaround of the season, and potentially, even though it's this early, you could say one of the contenders for turnaround of the decade. That is just, what a turnaround Pearson has done. But Bournemouth are struggling. Injury problems are getting worse and worse. Of course, they've got quite a few defenders injured. And yeah, I mean, they really need players in the January transfer window. They strikers and they need defenders, because they're getting so many injuries. Another side who are getting so many injuries, Newcastle. I believe that's 10 first-team players that are injured for Newcastle. They managed to hold on to a 1-1 draw. But I saw this game, and it's marginally down to Martin Dubravka, the Newcastle United goalkeeper, who was absolutely sensational in that game. Dubravka really is. I think he could be one of the best goalkeepers outside the top 6. I think him, Henderson, Ben Foster as well. Who else? Fabianski. I think those are the 4 best keepers outside of the top 6. I think you have to really say that. And yeah, he kept Newcastle a draw here. And it's 3 defeats out of their last 4. But they did survive an onslaught. And Miguel Almiron, he's now scored, I believe, 3 goals in his past 4 Premier League games. Remember, he didn't score for 26 ever since he arrived in 2000 and in the start of 2019. But he's turned it around. He can't stop scoring. Hit a purple patch. So very well done for him. Of course, they have a replay against Rochdale to look forward to at home as well. So maybe a little bit of unnecessary. And with Steve Bruce getting so many injuries, A, it could be a chance for them to send the younger players out, see how they do. But B, obviously there is a risk of injuries for those players because of the extra game in the schedule. So, this is why it's important to win games like the game they had against Rochdale away from home. They really needed to win that for so many different reasons, but they didn't win it, and here we are. But for Wolves, they're still in the top half. They have lost 2 of their last 3, but I don't think it's going to affect them too much. I think that, they're probably still excited after the win against Manchester City. But yeah, Wolves really are doing well. They've actually loaned their striker, Patrick Cutrone. Remember, he signed from AC Milan in the summer. That was a signing I did not get, because in what world are 3-time champions of Europe, AC Milan, a less attractive prospect than Wolves, who were in League One 5 years ago? I cannot, get my mind around that. But it is what it is. They have loaned Cutrone, who's had a terrible season. I mean, it was really the battle of 2 dead strikers at Molineux, Cutrone and Joe Linton. And Joe Linton, honestly, you could stick my dead grandmother up front, and she'd probably do a better job. But really good to see that they finally loaned him out after some really shocking performances. They've loaned him out to Italian side Fiorentina, and hopefully he grows there, because he's been shocking in England, as has Joe Linton. Newcastle in 13th and Wolves are in 7th place. And we touched on Southampton. Southampton got revenge at Leicester City after their 9-0 humiliation, 9-0 mauling, 9-0 demolition of Leicester City. They took revenge, and like Watford, they are now the second most informed team. They are unbeaten in their last 5, with 4 of those matches being victories. Ralph Hasenhüttl has absolutely transformed that side. They had 15 points. They had 15 points from 17 matches. They were, I believe, in the relegation zone, and now Southampton are just a point away from top half. They're 2 points away from Spurs. Unbelievable. Danny Ings will be, mark my words, Danny Ings will be playing in the March international friendlies. 100%. He will be playing. He scored against Leicester, and he's done really well for himself. He's got 13 goals this season. Danny Ings. Oh, I really feel so happy for the guy. I mean, I wrote him off, as did pretty much everyone did, a year and a half ago. I thought, Danny who? I mean, I only knew Danny Ings from that good season he had at Burnley when they were relegated in 14-15. But he's done a madness for Southampton. He's done the absolute bits, and really happy for him. Ward-Prowse is doing well. Moussa Djenepo is doing pretty well. Nathan Redmond as well. Leicester City, though, of course, with that defeat, it's now 3 defeats in the last 5 for Brendan Rodgers. Okay, those were to Liverpool and they were to Manchester City, but, you know, Leicester are now probably going to be safe in 3rd place. I don't think they're going to overtake Manchester City unless City have another slip up. But yeah, Leicester City will now just be focusing on trying to consolidate European football. They have 16 matches to go. And can they do it? Can they consolidate European football, make a mockery of my pre-season predictions? They are interested in signing Demiral again from Juventus, of course, the young centre-back, who, that could be a pretty good move for him as well. But Southampton really just transformed under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Danny Ings is getting on that plane, and unless Jamie Vardy is in the spirit or the feeling to be playing international football, because if you remember, Jamie Vardy actually stepped down from international duties, I believe, after the World Cup. So yeah, hopefully he can get back. Hopefully Gareth Southgate will call him up again, because he's the top scorer of the Premier League this season. So surely, he's still got the pace. He obviously can assist. He can drop behind because he assisted the Leicester goal for Dennis Pratt. So yeah, hopefully those two will be lining up for England in a couple of months' time. Everton beat Brighton and Hove Albion. I mean, it was a pretty dead week for Everton, of course, losing to Liverpool's kids in the FA Cup on Sunday last week. They managed to beat them 1-0. Brilliant goal from Richarlison. Have a look at Richarlison's goal. It was a brilliant spin turn and first time fit and finish. But Brighton, 1 win in their past 5. Are the alarm bells starting to ring? I'm not too sure. I'm really not too sure. I mean, they're 3 points from safety, but you never know what could happen. This is the Premier League. Everton, on the other hand, are same amount of points, and if they could win, they could probably climb into the top half. Really good for Everton to be able to climb into the top half, definitely, because of the all of the hate that Ancelotti got from after the Liverpool game where they lost to their kids. It's not really wanted to see. But obviously Brighton are still looking to sign. I believe, I have no idea what his name is, Timo Kadewe. I'm not too sure about that. He plays in the 2nd division of French football for Le Havre, and he's from Zimbabwe. That's all I know. That's all I know. I do not see the 2nd division of French football. I'm not that much of a journeyman. But yeah, Brighton losing out at home. But that is it then for the Premier League. The table then for the Premier League. Obviously Liverpool at the top, Manchester City, Leicester and Chelsea occupy the Champions League places. In the bottom 3, Aston Villa, Bournemouth and Norwich City. Into the Championship then, and this incredible league keeps up the pace, keeps throwing surprises, because the Welsh derby was on today, and Cardiff and Swansea did not score. It was a goalless draw. Both sides hitting the woodwork. But a Championship game that I did see was Brentford against QPR, and my God, Brentford looked like a good team. BMW up front. And BMW is the abbreviation for their trio of strikers that they have up front. Saeed Benrahma, Brian Mbuemo and Ollie Watkins, who I believe is one of the top scorers in the Championship. And they beat QPR, who, if you remember, put 6 past Cardiff and 5 past Swansea a couple of weeks ago. It's mad, the Championship. But Yeah, also another informed team, Barnsley, under their new boss, Gerhard Struble. They're doing pretty well. They're starting to distance themselves. They are very close now to survival in the Championship. They were dead and buried once their manager Stendhal left. But no, they've done pretty well for themselves after that. But beating Huddersfield, also Charlton were held West Brom to a draw, and Leeds United, who of course were very close against Arsenal in the FA Cup, they were beaten by a side managed by their former manager, Gary Monk, of course. He managed Leeds in 16-17. But, good win for Sheffield Wednesday. Good win for Fulham as well. They beat Hull by 1-0. And absolute thriller at the Riverside. Middlesbrough 2, Derby County 2. And, of course, Wayne Rooney has signed for Derby County. He played against Middlesbrough, and he's played quite a few games for Derby County now. I think 3 or 4 games he's played for them. Here is how the Championship table is looking. West Brom and Leeds, it pays for me to say this, West Brom are winless in their last 5. Leeds 1 win in their last 5. Brentford are only 6 points behind Leeds. If Brentford go up via the playoff, if Brentford get automatically promotion this season, I don't know what I'll do. I honestly do not know what I'll do. Like, I will personally make an apology video to Brentford. Honestly, their attack has scared me. But the form team in the Championship so far, you really have to say, is Middlesbrough and Reading, because Middlesbrough have distanced themselves from safety. Reading as well have, under Mark Bowen. So they've done pretty well for themselves. Sheffield Wednesday up into the playoffs after that victory against Leeds. Wigan Athletic lost to Bristol City, which means they're in the relegation zone, and it's a three-way fight for survival between Barnsley, Wigan and Luton, who are at the foot of the Championship. Into League One then, and Rotherham. There's been a change at the guard at League One because Wycombe Wanderers have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They're starting to bottle it a little bit now, and they're only 3 points ahead of Ipswich, who are in 3rd place. Rotherham, 4 wins in a row, takes them top of League One. Only 3 points though separate 1st from 4th. That's a really competitive league. League One. Oxford United lost a little bit of ground as well. They were top momentarily a couple of days ago, in fact. They are now 2 defeats in a row. Sunderland managed to beat Wycombe, of course, to condemn them to that defeat 4-0. Absolute morning. And Sunderland now are in the playoffs. Portsmouth as well, getting very close, but it is so tight. Oxford in 5th on 39 points. 3 points separate them and Bristol Rovers in 12th place. Madness, absolute madness. That is really good. Bolton Wanderers are still bottom of the league, 2 defeats in a row for them. Southend United, they're pretty much the worst EFL team so far this season. Most goals conceded, the least amount of wins. They've only had 1 win in the entire season. 25 matches, 1 win. That's appalling for Sol Campbell. Tranmere Rovers slip into the relegation zone after their draw at the weekend, and of course they're playing Watford at home, so maybe the best time to take their mind off of the league worries. Into League 2 then, and probably the big story in League 2 is that the top scorer in the entire of the EFL, Owen Doyle, had to go back. Was recalled by his parent club Bradford City. Bradford ended up losing though 2-1 to Crawley Town. His former side Swindon beat Crewe by 3-1, and it is very tight in League 2. Of course, Swindon and Bradford fighting both for promotion. Owen Doyle, of course, has got 23 goals this season for Swindon, and none so far for Bradford. The other results in League 2, Portsmouth beating Carlisle by 3-0, which makes up for the 720 round mile trip they had to make. Cheltenham beating Walsall by 3-1. Exeter trying to keep their charge towards the title after a 2-0 win against Cambridge. Forest Green beating Mansfield 4-3 in an absolute thriller. Of course, 2 sides that were looking to be into the playoffs. Forest Green are, Mansfield Town of course are not. Salford lost to Northampton Town at home. Northampton steadying themselves now just outside the playoffs. And of course, Stevenage now are at the bottom of the table. They replaced Morecambe after Stevenage lost to Port Vale. Port Vale unbeaten in their last 5 games, still in with a shot at the playoffs. So then in Europe, of course, right now, some key results to tell you in Europe, of course, and that is a Barcelona forward Luis Suarez will be out for 4 months with a knee injury. So, I mean, is that really good? I'm not too sure about that one. I don't really know my opinions on that one, but yeah. Also, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a great story this weekend. He, of course, returned to AC Milan, the club where he was around about 10 years ago, and he scored the second goal against Cagliari to seal victory. And at 38 years of age, I mean, Zlatan, yes, he may look like he's mid-40s, but he's still 6'5", and he is still a beast. So, yeah, brilliant for Zlatan. Of course, there's also been news that Ajax have signed former Fulham and Liverpool winger Ryan Babel on loan from Galatasaray. And, of course, right now there is the Spanish Super Cup final. A lot of controversy about the Spanish Super Cup final because it's been held Real Madrid against Atletico Madrid in the final. Right now, currently, it is 0-0. But yeah, in extra time. But yeah, there's a lot of controversy about it because, of course, it's being staged in Saudi Arabia. Of course, there's been a lot of things are saying, the Spanish FA might be doing this for a little bit of money, a bit of attraction, but, it is what it is, to be fair. I'm not really too sure about this. Paris Saint-Germain are in the semi-finals of their League Cup after beating Saint Etienne. But that is it, guys. That will wrap up episode number 20 of the Chris Talks Football Podcast. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. And as always, if you are new, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like as well. And as always, I will see you guys next time.